Now, please allow me to introduce you to one of the next generation of leaders, a passionate STEM advocate and one of the youngest Forbes 30 Under 30 achievers, Anvitha Vijay.
Hi, I'm Anvitha Vijay. I'm 15 years old and I'm passionate about empowering girls to lead and disrupt the future of STEM. People ask me what inspired me to launch apps when I was 8 years old. I'm going to take you back in time with me now and share a little story about what eventually sparked my interest in STEM. When I was 5, the iPad was all the rage at school. I begged my mum to get me one. Finally, after a few days of begging, she said yes, but you have to earn it. The deal was that for every chore I did around the house, I would get a gold coin to collect in my piggy. I clearly remember after a week when I had about 10 gold coins in my piggy, I felt so sure that I had made it. What a disappointment it was when my mum said I had a long way to go. I kept hassling her over the next few weeks, and one morning she took me to the garden and opened the water tap so that one drop of water fell at a time into a bucket. She told me to watch it for 5 minutes. 5 minutes felt like 5 hours, and there was only a thin layer of water in the bucket. Mum said, let's come back to it at the end of the day and see what happens. When we did, it was overflowing with water. She said, if you show patience and not give up, one day your piggy will be overflowing and you will get your iPad. It took me almost a year, and not one, but 6 overflowing piggies to get my iPad. When I got my iPad, it felt so good, and I still have it about 10 years later. Looking back, this is one of the most important experiences in my life. It taught me patience, persistence, and not to give up on my dream, even when it felt impossible. Every time it feels hard, I think back to the bucket of water to remind myself to keep going. Because I worked so hard to get my iPad, it became super special to me, and I wanted to not just play with it, but to do something more. I loved seeing and playing with the many different apps on the App Store, and I really wanted to create my own. Inspired by collecting gold coins for an iPad and Candy Crush Saga, I wanted to create an app that made doing chores and collecting pocket money much more fun, with virtual rewards and gamification. Then I thought that as long as I had a great idea, I could easily bring it to life. When I Googled how to create an app, there were companies that you could pay to develop the app. So I called some with my dad. When I heard it would cost tens of thousands of dollars, what flashed across my mind were the countless overflowing piggies that would take an eternity to collect. Wow. I had to think differently and find another way. I had to do it myself. It took me 3 years to launch my apps onto the App Store. I drew my app idea on pieces of paper and took it to developer meets and startup events to show my app idea and ask for feedback and advice. And I began to realize that building an app isn't just coding. It's creating a user interface design, a user experience design, prototyping, and so much more, each a profession in itself. Girls, look out. There are more options in STEM than we think there are. For getting the user experience right, I remember I used to stand in libraries and shopping centers to get feedback from kids and parents on the prototype for my app. Some people were kind enough to give me feedback, and others, I guess, just didn't have the time. I didn't mind. Cutting the long story short, I finally launched 2 apps a few days before my 9th birthday. I was so happy that kids could finally use my app and learn in a fun way, and that I was making some difference. By this point, I was getting pretty excited about a career in STEM. To me, STEM is a platform to create things, to make a positive difference in people's lives. I started exploring more, listening to talks, reading about STEM, and around the age of 11 or 12, it became apparent to me that STEM had a major gender representation and equality issue. Women make up about 50% of the world's population, but we only make up around 25% of the STEM workforce. I was shocked, but thinking back, all of the developer meetups that I went to were mainly filled with men. I couldn't understand, and I still can't, how such a major chunk of the population was not being accurately represented in STEM, a field that's trying to solve for and innovate for the community. How can you solve for the community when you don't even represent the community? The World Economic Forum says that globally, only 22% of AI professionals are female. Making decisions based on artificial intelligence systems and machine learning algorithms is quickly becoming common practice. And these decisions influence who gets called in for that job interview, who gets prioritized for COVID-19 vaccines, who gets more credit. A lot of the data being used to make these decisions is biased because the data typically follows societal biases. And biased data leads to biased results. Biased results can jeopardize lives. We need some serious change here. We need to ensure that historic gender bias does not get amplified and projected onto the future. And we can do this by increasing the diversity of leadership and inputs through increasing the number of women in STEM. So what are some of the barriers that girls are facing in STEM? I'm going to share 3 with you today. 1. A 2019 survey by the UK education provider QA found that more than half of young women would be interested in a career in STEM, but 78% were discouraged by gender inequality. This is a huge problem because this shows that the status quo is perpetuating an endless cycle of gender imbalance in STEM. The gender imbalance in STEM has always been justified with the myth that boys are just better than girls at STEM. But that's all it is, a myth, a social perception leading to young girls not being supported or thinking that they may not be able to do so well in STEM. But research shows that there are no cognitive biological differences and that girls perform just as well, if not better, than boys at STEM subjects. And we need girls to know this. 2. It doesn't take a genius to see the gender stereotypes being forced onto children. Take the toy section or ads for toys, for example. Girls are shown playing with dolls or kitchen sets, and boys playing with robots and microscopes. While there's nothing wrong with playing with dolls or kitchen sets, girls need to be shown that girls too can be scientists, programmers, astronauts, that it's not just a boys thing. 3. Lesser awareness is making young girls think that a career in STEM is limited to being a developer or an engineer, all of which are great options, but there's so much more to STEM. Depending on your interests and strengths, there's also product design, tech sales, operations, analytics, customer experience and success, project management, to being a STEM business leader, and so much more. So, the important question, how do we break these barriers? I think the most important thing is for girls to hear from more female STEM role models. Girls need to see themselves being represented in the STEM workforce and leadership so that they can feel encouraged and go, yes, I can do it too, because we can. My little part, as an ambassador for Stanford's Women in Data Science community, I organized a panel of 5 top female leaders in data science, a crucial space, from around the world to share their journeys and top tips to inspire girls to get involved and lead in the field. It reached a few hundred plus girls, and I was so happy when girls came to me and said that they didn't know or weren't sure about data science, but that hearing from women leaders in the space helped give them clarity and inspire them to explore it. Hearing that kind of positive feedback really showed me how important it is for girls to have access to these kinds of events, with women leaders in STEM sharing their journeys, the challenges they faced, how they broke the barriers, and their advice for girls in STEM. So let's talk about leadership. According to the Boston Consulting Group, women account for only 9% of leaders in the STEM fields globally. Only 8% of technology startups are women-led. Only 6% of Fortune 100 CEOs are women. This must change. That's why I founded Lead at the Table, because I strongly believe a seat at the table is just not enough. We need to lead at the table, recreate the table if needed, not just hope to share our voices, but empower ourselves to lead the decisions and directions of the future. Through Lead at the Table, I hope to bring accomplished women leaders to share their journey and inspire lots of young girls to lead and take initiative. Another dream project that I'm working on is writing a book. I hope to inspire thousands of girls to dream big and be bold, courageous leaders and disruptors. There's nothing we girls can't do if we put our minds to it. That's the message I want to get across to the little girls reading. Publishers, if you're passionate about inspiring girls to lead, hit me up. So, everyone watching, let's lead the change that we need to see. Let's bring diversity, equality, and inclusion to STEM. Let's be remembered as a generation that broke the barriers. And let's all join hands together to lead and disrupt the future in STEM and crack the code. We can do this. Thank you.